It's 10:03 a.m. and I just got out of a trade. I want to see if this can actually work out over a longer period of time. INND, if it can try to uptrend and break this 78 level, and then ideally that would make it pretty impressive because it would also break the previous day high, which was at 79 if it has a really good momentum. And then this thing can really uptrend and make a move over a longer period of time. I had another trade with GESI first, but let me go over INND since I still want to look at it. I did trade and I bought 20,000 shares at 955 at 77. Right around here, I got in at 77 when it really looked like it was going to break out of this range that it was struggling with at 75 because it was like a very big seller at the ask, and it eventually got taken out, as you can see by the volume. And I got in for that reason because the momentum was looking super nice, and I was in it for that reason once again at 955 at 77. It started the struggle after it did briefly get to 78. This thing is looking so much nicer right after I got out of it too. I guess I'll keep looking at it. Like literally right after I got out, we had all of these green just purchases of like a lot of volume. It would be bad news if it breaks 75. And again, I was in it with this momentum. It didn't break past 78, which was going to be ideal. And I did cut half of my position. I sold 10,000 shares at 76 at 10:02, which was right here. 10:02, I sold half of my position, which was fine because it wasn't looking nice. And I thought, worst case scenario, this thing is going to fail. It gets below 75. I'm cutting the other half. And at least I won't have to cut my entire position for a loss. It will only be half of my position because that other half was for roughly break even. And then I did sell the other half at 10:03. Price action was not looking good. And I got out at 76 as well. So just a really tiny loss there. But then right after that, it looks like it's trying to still hold itself together. But I don't know. I mean, it might do it eventually, and it might be all ugly the way it does it, and I miss out, but at least I'll try. And there was also a lot of volume right here being dumped. There was a big wall of support at 75 that was built up, and at this point, when people were dumping a bunch of shares into 75, I got out of my last half. If it wasn't for this, I probably would still be holding on to 10,000 shares and probably risking 75 breaking, but at the time, 75 was really strong and it looked like it was going to break below it, which would have been not ideal. As you can see, it kind of had like a little bit of a gap, although I guess maybe if we were to break 76 right here, it would look very impressive, like it would try to, downtrend and get to 72. I'll continue to watch it. This might have been like a maybe, a bottom. This was resistance. Now it's support. It holds support and now it breaks 77 and it gets to 78 and then we break 79 and then we get to the 80s and that will be super profitable. I'll keep watching this and I'll go over GESI later. For now, I want to just look at this. Okay, it is 10:12 a.m. and this thing failed, so that's good because now I can stop looking at it. I want to see if it can maybe try to do it eventually. After all, it did, dip under VWAP briefly here and it kind of came back and broke under it again. And yeah, now this is looking like a double bottom, so this is looking pretty bad. All right, I'm glad, yeah, I'm glad this thing failed so I can stop looking at it. As for GESI, I did trade it briefly in the morning. I was in at 931. 50 shares at 498. Why? Because it was looking like it was going to try to break $5. This is like a resistance level that it's been struggling with for a while if it's going to break past it. And I noticed that, it did have a move towards the upside. It did get as high as 503. There was a chance I could have sold at 502, but I didn't take it because I wanted it to develop further. If it's going to break past 5, it's going to be more than just 2 pennies. It's going to be something really nice. And so it did break past 5, but it wasn't like a breakout. do it. It failed. And I was looking at this chart right here. It was probably this one since I was looking at the 1 minute chart here. I saw that a lot of the times in the morning it will do some kind of a breakout or a morning spike and then it just sells off. It has one here, sells off. It has one here, sells off. This one also, and this one also just sells off. So I have that into consideration that maybe if it's not going to break past 5 and do something impressive and really show that it's a confirmed breakout and morning spike, I should probably get out of it because then it'll just sell off. And that's exactly what it did. It sold off, and the volume just really dried up when after I got in and it had that run towards 5. The volume just it just looked horrible, absolutely horrible. And I got out for break even. I saw the 50 shares back at 935, which was right here at 935. I sold them back at 498. This was probably me making this candle look the way it is. I got out those 50 shares and this was a break even trade. I'll continue to look for more setups. SYXX was impressive. I just wasn't able to be a part of it because it just moved all jumpy and choppy, and I would have had to have chased to be a part of it. But I do like how it had the gap down right here, and then it kind of made like a little resistance level at 35. So I was looking at 35 potentially breaking, and it did. And the problem was is that it just made a quick move to the 40s, and it did drop towards VWAP here. But I think at this point I was looking at INND, and this was a setup too if you want to consider it. It looks like a bull flag, but I was looking at it for the breakout past 35, and when it did it without me, that was fine. And CYDY, I was watching this, I think, for a breakout, but I forgot what price point it was, and it doesn't seem like I can tell on the chart anymore, but I think I was watching it here when I had this top at this 53 level. It dropped, and then it kind of came back, and if it were to have broken it, that would have been a setup I could have taken, but it didn't work out here, and I think like a very large 100,000 share seller showed up at the ask and it just made this price action. Maybe it can come past the VWAP and try again later, but that's not something I'm too interested in. The thing that gave me more conviction with INND is that this thing has volume, much more volume than it's had before, so it gives it more authenticity. And as for CYDY, the volume here is like any other day besides this one right here when it had a gap down. So it's not really as nice, and that's why I was less interested in trading it, even though you might think they're very similar. I'll keep looking, but I don't see anything that I want to trade right now. It is 10:56 p.m. and I'm here to call it off. Overall, I'm going to be down just $2.50, and that was with two setups. GESI did not work out. The morning spike right here, I did a very good job cutting it when I saw that, and I also saw this and I didn't hesitate and think maybe this time is different and then be in for a loss. And I did try my best with INND. This one did not work out. I was really a part of it, and if it were to have worked out, I think it would have been super duper profitable, so that's totally fine. It did eventually sell off, and I was watching it here and there, looking at the price action, seeing if it was going to do it, but I think that it lost a lot of the momentum, even if it were to have done it right here, a breakout, than if it were to have done it very early in the morning, especially here around 10 o'clock when it could have really have done something volatile. It just sold off, and I will be watching this if maybe in the future it can consolidate a few days and then try to break out that level. That could be something impressive too, or maybe it's just something that had, an uptrend here and just sells off. Who knows? And that's really about it. I did my best. Didn't work out. That's fine. No problem taking an L. That's a part of trading, and I'm glad I was trying to be a part of this, even though I wasn't able to get filled here with SYXX because this was just a very quick move. That's all I have for today.